Welcome to another Plants live stream. This is the musical Plants Talking Plants live stream. Today we're going to start up a process of learning how to operate a camera. We're going to learn different instrument parts and draw them at the same time. And we're going to draw them as well as we can on this setup, and maybe I can improve the setup later on. So let's start off with the drum set. Well, what is a drum set? Actually, let's do a confirmation. Loki, are you with us? Are you able to hear the audio, and can you see the pencil moving around? Is that all good? Cool. Here, alrighty. Um, so, what? Let me start off with the drum set, and Loki says I can hear and see just fine. Nice, thank you. So let's go ahead and say, all right. Adjust my pencil here, sizing there. 13, 4. Let's do it at maybe 4. Drum. No, that's a bad. Drum set. Okay. Drums. We also call it drum set. All right. So drums are individual drums. You've got a snare, you've got cymbals, you've got a floor tom, or you got toms, and you've got let's think, what else do we have on a drum set? So let's go ahead and say, how do you define drums altogether? Like, what altogether are drums? What consists of drums? You got bass, right? You have snare. That's not a very good S. Okay. That's still not a very good S. Okay. Snare, right? You've got toms, and there are several toms. I think that's how you spell tom. No, that's not how you spell tom. This is how you spell tom. All right, you got several toms. What else? You've got cymbals. So bass, snare, toms, and cymbals. Okay, so cymbals. Did I spell that right? Yes. Okay. So cymbals are everything, basically everything metal. Okay. Oh, well, it's the round circular disc type thing, right? Let's go ahead and hide a few of these drums. All right. So what are cymbals? Cymbals, you've got that sort of bell shaped. That's a very funny shape. It's like a flying saucer or something. Cymbals, basically, it's got that cone and it's got the thing in it right there. You'll have sort of that bell piece, and it's almost like a record where, like, from the top, you have, let's see, here's that. From the top, you're gonna have like, say, like a tree, or you have just like a radial type of thing. It's very, very thin type of grooves all along the cymbal, and then you got that bell. So whenever you hit a cymbal, let me pull up the Rock Band, or not Rock Band, Garage Band example. For example, like, say, in Garage Band, there's a cymbal, and notice you have like that little that bell piece right there. Okay, it's gonna be like an indention inside of the metal that goes up like that. And these really small, sort of not really microscopic, but once you hold one, you can see these little grooves inside of it. Um, and that's pretty much every single cymbal. It does that. It does that with a hi hat. Does that with the ride, and then it does that with the crash cymbal. So from those definitions, you've got the hi, which yeah, you've got the hi hat, you've got the ride. I think it's spelled like that. Then you get the crash, and they're all shaped differently, as you saw. Um, so if you say like cymbals, okay, so what's the hi hat look like? It's the disc, right? And there's another one. There's two of them. So together they make up one hi hat. Like if the drummer says, "Hey, I need my hi hat," it's just one whole thing. Now, so it's two discs. It's got the little groove on it. They're all kind of shaped differently. And then within those two discs, between those two discs, there's a metal pole that stabilizes it, and then below that, it goes through it. It goes all the way through it. You could probably redo that just to make it more clear. You got this metal pole going all the way through the hi-hat cymbal. It's going to come out to the exact same width of that. They're the same width. And so the pole going through the hi-hat all the way through, coming out the bottom, that end. And that lower part, it has a tripod. So a leg here, a leg here. You can adjust the tripod, sort of like a camera tripod. And there's probably one back here too. And then once you got that part, you will have for your foot, for your left foot, you're going to have a pedal, just like that. Got some textures on it. And on that pedal, maybe not that thick, there's sort of a hinge, and then there's a sort of a base to that, like a floor. Is that you take your foot, you draw a foot. Here's the drummer. All right. And here's the leg, cargo pants, whatever. I don't know. And then he's got the foot. For some reason, he has a large boot on. I don't know what I'm doing here. So, or a clog or whatever. Um, so he's got the foot, and he's going to basically just press down on that. I mean, his foot will actually rotate. Like you're almost like you're walking. So, and what that will do to the actual hi hat right here is that, let's see, what's going to happen on that hi hat is this thing. When the drummer presses down on this, the hi hat will go. It'll pull down that lever and it goes kind of smash it together, down and back up, down and back up, down and back up. And then once it's kind of smashing that impact of those two uh, metal thingies, you know, uh, cymbals, that's going to emit that metallic splashing sound every single time. Um, every time you hit that thing, um, press, uh, cool. Kind of like a car pedal. It is similar to a car pedal. It's located. Um, yeah, pretty much like when you accelerate, you do it real slow, like, you're like, and then you go up whatever, 20, 30, 50, whatever. With this one, you're almost tapping it or stomping it in a way. Um, Here's actually how you would do this. So you cut that and then paste that there. With a carb pedal, you in fact, maybe it's better that we don't have a leg on it. Okay, car pedal. Yeah, you're pressing down, like that. Accelerate and then let up. Accelerate, let up. So with this one, it's directly like press, 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 and then each time it's hitting that cymbal together. Um, so that is the hi hat. That's just one of the cymbals, right? Um, Now, if we come in, maybe we can keep this leg. I don't know. We got we got the hi hat, we got the ride, and we got the crash. The ride. So, like, notice, like, electronically, yes, you have it on the left, but you're not doing anything here as a product owner that reflects, using your foot, right? You're just tapping that like that. So that's actually another way to make the sound through the hi hat is just when it's open. Let's see. When it is when the hi hat is open, there we go. Hi hat's open, and you come in here with the drumstick. So you come in here with the drumstick, and you know tap. You tap it when it's open, and then let's see. And then when it's closed, you give that another kind of the same location. The tap on the same location, um, and there's a different sound. So if it's open, you're going to get that open sound to it. When it's closed, you're going to get that closed sound. It's like more of like a ticking sound. And then it's open and then closed. So that's more or less, the complexity of the hi hat. Any questions so far? No questions. Okay. No, you were good. Oh, thank you. Um, so let's go. We got hi hat, and I remember your hi hat. That's always going to be your main, your hi hat or your ride. It's going to be your main tempo, your main rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And sometimes on here you accidentally hit that one or hit that one, but 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So let's back up to toms or no cymbals. Take away that one. Take away that one. Take away that one. Yeah, hi hat. So we got hi hat. Now we had ride cymbal and crash cymbal. So how would we do crash cymbal? So you don't need your foot for the crash or the ride. Um, the foot. It's not the foot. What the crash and the ride are going to do is crash. Crash is the loudest one. Like Crash is the most common one you're going to hear, and they can be any size. Let's see, they can really be any size that you want them to be. More space from that to that. But crashes are just slightly smaller. And sometimes they can be significantly smaller than the ride cymbal. And the way that that metal is built in there, um, it's not like a hard stop between this bell piece, but I'm just emphasizing, just highlighting where it is. So there's sort of like with the way the metal is welded is sort of just kind of a natural gradient, kind of a groove into the rest of the cymbal. Yeah. Sort of a soft groove that goes into the rest of the cymbal there. And this thing, you're probably wondering what in the heck is going on here. This is actually just like we had on the hi hat, that little metal piece uh, that there you're going to see a sort of a black felt fastener, kind of like a screwdriver washer, kind of like a washer screwdriver, to fasten that. And then there's a twisted metal sort of plate clamp that goes on there. And then it comes up, and then there's whatever different kind of dimensional little peg thing to be able to basically twist that thing in there. Um, So it's all metal. It's just this whole entire metal twisting piece that goes all the way in there. And then, so what it is on the other end of the ride cymbal. So let's say that's the top of the ride, and this is really, yeah, that's the top of the ride. The other half of that. So let's say that that's the top, and then here's the inside of it. Would be it's fastening right here as well. And then it continues to go in, the metal piece goes all the way through until finally you get to your tripod. So, you have your feet for your tripod, it's fastened down there, fastened like a rubber feet. And then sometimes this thing goes way to the ground, and you can adjust this. Tripod can go up, down, extended longer, further. Um, And so that's as if you were looking at it from the lower end, from the other half of it. From the top half of it, it's really just the metal coming out right at the top, fastening there, just like on the hi hat and the ride. So that is could be the crash, and it even could be the ride. And if it were the ride, I mean, it's literally the same thing almost, but everything is just a little bit wider. It's just a little bit. The crash is kind of from here to here. It's very short. From here to here on the ride, maybe the ride could be take that kind of about the same size. There you go. That is your ride. Going to connect these together. What is it? Golden maybe? Golden ride. Here you go. And then you got that would be like your silver metal. Actually, that is probably more suiting. Or maybe you put a gradient on that or something. Um, Sort of a dark metal there. Anyway, so yeah, crash, ride, uh, anyone, and then the other lower half of the crash and the ride. So those are cymbals. Toms, hi hat, right? The toms are very complex. I mean, they look super simple, But to me, the tom drums are very complex. I'm going to go ahead and pull up again what we know about the toms. The specific sound, there's one right here. So like your right arm would be like right here where the pencil's at. Your right arm's here. Your left arm is kind of probably going to be facing right here, on the snare, and then your right arm's going to be hitting the drum or hitting the hi hat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you might move over to the tom, hit the tom, right, and then a lower tom, lower, and then even lower. So that's a range of toms there you got right there. Um, these are, I forgot the specific names, but this is always the floor tom. So toms, you notice how complex they are. They have like these metal braces, these metal rims. You can knock on the rim of the drum. You can um, hit the skin, and then it's just a barrel basically. Uh, so it would be just like a cylinder. That's the rim. You got another rim, same dimension, right? And then those rims are they sort of go out a little bit further. That's assuming the barrel of the tom is gray for some reason. Um, and and then the rim, let's just say it's red. Slightly more proportional. Um, if the skin were blue, it'd be right there. So that's always gonna be the one that you're hitting right there on the blue, um, the skin of it. The bottom of it, there is also another skin on the bottom of there's a skin right here on the top. There's a tom that looks terrible. Yep, there's a skin right there, and then down below here is also a skin. And the way those things are, you can buy the skins alone. In fact, you probably often, if you break the skins a lot, or if you just they're old, you replace them. It's really just a big, kind of flat thing from the side. Of course, it's just maybe like an inch or so. Has a little beveled piece, I think, up there, an indentation. Yeah. So you buy the skins. You usually replace the skins more often than you would, barrel. You probably never barrel replace those. So that is the toms, cymbals, hi hat. So the hi hat cymbals, the tom, the crash, the ride, the ride. And what else do we have? Snare. Okay, snare is very much the same thing as the toms. It's just wider, and it has the really interesting thing about, other than the bass drum, the really interesting thing about the snare is bass snare. It's got a special kind of piece inside of it. It's like a wired. It's like a, I don't know what they call it. It's almost like something you would see on a barbecue grill. These little sort of wiring pieces, and it's on the bottom of the snare. Um, and this is what you're hearing rattle and it gives it that kind of crispy rattling sound. Let me look it up real quick. When you hit the snare. 1 second. Yeah, it's sort of a rattling sound. Snare. If you Google snare, I think it's a cage. No, it's not a cage. Let me find the name of it. Snare drum. Googling snare drum, rattler or snare drum cage. Let's see. Snare drum. Replace, like if you had to replace the snare drum, that's something you might buy. It's let's see, percussion, walnut. Yeah, I can't find the name right now, but it is pretty much just like these really thin, probably a lot thinner than that. Um, Sort of like little, and it's on the bottom of it, and it one end fastens uh, to one side of the drum, and so it's basically goes around or goes inside of it like that. And again, it is much smaller. It's the it is not that thick. Let me try that again. That is okay. Yeah, it's much more like that. And then what you'll get is your drum. Maybe even shorter than that. Pretty much like that. So every time you hit that snare, it's basically like it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this thing is rattling. It's getting that pow sound because of this rattle. Being even though it's on the bottom end of it, it receives that kind of impact, and it gets that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So bass, hi hat. So bass, nothing, snare, nothing, bass, nothing, snare, nothing. So that's again on our samples when we were doing like one, two, three, four, 1, 2. Simple enough, right? Hey, Shinjun, welcome. Um, we were discussing the snare drum, and on the bottom of the snare drum, every time you hit the snare, and let me kind of back up here to the hi hat. Nope, that's an example of a foot hitting the hi hat pedal. That's the skin of the tom drum. That's the crash cymbal. Crash cymbal is this one. Oops. Let's see. Here's crash cymbal. Right? And notice it's Loki says simple. He says low. Yes. Yeah. And being a musician, sometimes I get in the habit of like I try something like I know it's real simple, and then I accidentally get more elaborate with it, and then I'm like, wait, that wasn't quite as simple as I knew it was supposed to be. Um, Loki says, wait, how is this? What? Wait, is this how others feel when I talk photons? It might be. And because I think that when you talk photons, you have your base knowledge of photons, and you have your base experience level of photons, and you've let me see if I can illustrate this idea because that's always more fun. So again, Shinjo, we reviewed some terms of what altogether is a drum set. There's drums, and there's drum set. And the drum set is basically everything together. And the drums are all individual parts. There's the snare, there's the toms, there's the cymbals, and there's the hi hat, and um, the there's a hi hat. There's the cymbals. A hi hat is a cymbal. Um, a ride is a cymbal, and a crash is a cymbal. So, like as you can see, they're all those metal pieces. And there's some Drum sets have different amounts of cymbals. But yeah, Loki, when you have a concept like let's say photons, right? Um, Photons. You have that's a terrible S. Pho that doesn't look like an N either. Photons, right? So, if you don't mind sharing, what is one term, one definition of photons that maybe you're familiar with, and others might not be familiar with? If you want to type that in, because photons, there's different concepts, right? You have your basic concept. It's in the form of a rectangle or something, right? And then you build on that concept. Um, like later on, you go learn more, practice it. Okay. Loki says, oh, wait, no, that was something else. Um, you build on that concept, you practice it, and then maybe it gets like more elaborate or something, right? You're like, whoa, I did this with photons, and now it looks like a stick of butter with some bread or something. But it's like it starts out like that, and then it turns into something else, something more interesting, and then before you know it, it's basically like this crazy, wacky, cool, um, whatever's going on, right? And it's doing all these things, and nope, that's not right. And it's doing all these things, and then kablamo, right? Does that, finishes off over here, and then does that, right? So, you know, okay, wireless, and Loki says wireless and NPC programming. Yeah, see, you could start right here as a photon. Like that's just the actual photon itself. Like I'm not even vaguely familiar with. Like I just know a photon is a light, right? Like okay, you got a little light, and it shoots emitted light rays, right? Um, and right, light. Okay, so I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then if you learn, oh, now I can make like two light rays, a light right here, and a light right here, and a light right here, wireless and NPC programming. And I'm like, okay, well now you've got NPC programming, and you've added it to that, and you're doing that plus whatever photons originally did. And then suddenly you have something that's stylistic and functional and all sorts of energetic. Oops, that's a bad color. Energetic and creative and fun, go in all sorts of directions and all that. So, that's how things can end up sometimes. You start simple and then you kind of advance to new levels of it and it gets more sophisticated. All right. Any questions so far on instruments? I think I can move on to see. Let me wrap up the snare. I think Shinju, when you joined us, I was discussing how on the snare drum you have. Yep. Nope. Nope. Yep. Right there. What you have is this little vibrating piece, and what it's going to do is it's every time you hit that snare drum, it'll kind of rattle. It's like a rattler. I don't know the name of it, the definition of it, but it does do sort of a rattling. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what's happening kind of inside of the snare or on the bottom of the snare that you won't actually see it. Um, you won't actually see it when you play, but that's what it does. So why don't we rest on that and then just try a few of what we know on the drums. And then if we have time, we can move on to other instruments like strings, guitars, and other such things. So remember, we have the toms, we have the snare, we have the bass drum, and we got the cymbals. The hi-hat cymbal, the crash cymbal, and the ride cymbal. All right, so I'm going to do a simple one. All right. Loki says, is there a difference? Is there different kinds of snares that you could put into the drum to change the sound? Are there different kinds of snares that you can put inside? Yes, there are different kinds of snares, but it's always going to be in the same position. I think there are snares. Sometimes people might use a snare in a very strange location. But the snare will always, but yeah, you can definitely have different sounds of snare. And I think what causes it is a different type of wood or a different type of metal and a different type of skin that will cause that. Like here in this thing, you've got different like SoCal, you got Vintage Kit. So if I go to Vintage Kit, that doesn't do anything. Go to Classic Studio. Let's see. Oh, that's not what I want. Bluebird. Yeah, so here in Bluebird, it's a little bit of a higher sound. Retro rock? Or maybe I go back to Bluebird. I actually like Bluebird better. So let's try it. Let's practice. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we're going to do our bass on the 1, nothing on the 2, and a snare on the 3, and then nothing on the 4. And maybe I can illustrate that briefly, which I think I should. So nothing on the 1, 2, 3, 4 will look like bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, nothing, snare. Okay, one moment. All right, so it'll look like this. One, two, three, four, and then start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, start over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you hit the 1, you're going to be hitting the bass at the same time. And also, you're going to hit the hi hat. So watch this. I'm going to make an H for a hi-hat. Every time you hit the hi-hat, I'm going to put an H. 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 All right, so you hit the hi-hat 4 times. Hi-hat, 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 start over. Hi-hat, 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 start over. Now at the same time, you're hitting the bass and the hi-hat at the same time. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, bass, nothing. Or hi-hat and bass, hi-hat, hi-hat and snare, hi-hat. That's just that simple. Simple, that's the key word. I'll keep in mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi-hat 4 times. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that obviously is not as simple. But that what I did on the second time up there, I'm still using a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing over here on the cymbal, on the ride cymbal. Except I'm hitting the bass drum on the 2. On the 2. Bass drum is being hit on the 2 instead of on the 1. Dun, 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 dun. And dun, dun, dun. And I think the 2 and the 5 or 2 and the 4. All right. Any questions on that one? I think I'll close off the hour. And maybe next stream, maybe the Saturday, I think I can cover more instruments and possibly do. Let's see. No, not so far. Okay, now so far. Cool deal. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing and the illustrations. Yeah, was the illustrations pretty helpful? Would you say it's going well? Easy to understand. Did it make it easier to understand, or did it make it? I guess. Yeah. Well, what's your thought on the illustrations? Easy to understand. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All righty. Well, I think I'm going to try for a Saturday one, and I will put together a little more plans on what you might need to see, what you want to see, and how you can kind of just get more information on that. Cool deal. All right, I'll see you later.